Chapter 1. Love is a many-splendored thing. I started my life in North St. Louis, where my father worked as a streetcar driver for the St. Louis Public Service Company City Transit. And in the summer of 1956, when I was all of 4 years old, he took me to work with him one day. Now, if you've ever been to St. Louis in the summer, you know that a breeze in mid-August would be noteworthy in and of itself. But there was one moment and one breeze that I remember right now as vividly as the day it happened. We were the only two people on that number 40 crosstown streetcar that afternoon, and with the whole cabin to myself, I picked a seat about halfway back, my dad up front at the helm in his impressive driver's uniform and cap. I figured he must be one of the most important men in the whole city, like a general in the army or something. For my dad, however, this trip was bittersweet. Times were changing, and these electric streetcars were being phased out. In fact, the car we were riding had just completed her last full day of service and was now officially decommissioned. So my dad arranged to have me join him on this sentimental journey as the car traveled back across town to the maintenance yard one final time, where, sadly, it would be stripped down and left to rust in some backlot graveyard. The streetcar, a PCC streamliner, was like a giant Art Deco toaster, beautiful on the outside, hotter than hell on the inside. I recall my dad turning back to me smiling as he instructed me to pinch the two small levers at the top of the window and pull down to open it for some fresh air. It didn't help that much. "Wait till we get rolling," he assured me. "The breeze will feel really good." And sure enough, as the car's electric motor started to hum and whine, we picked up speed, and the resulting breeze that came through the window was like a message from God that all was right with the world. I can still hear the summer trees rustle as we sped close by them, and see the late afternoon sunlight flickering through their leaves. Most of the trip was along the tracks that ran behind the old neighborhoods downtown, and I was intrigued by the rare view into the backyards and lives of all these people, whom I'd never met and probably never would. Then the thrill of being slightly startled when suddenly we broke out into the busier, more chaotic downtown intersections. It's all still right there in my mind's eye. Though I was too young to appreciate the range of emotions he must have felt that day, the idea that my dad wanted me to share this experience with him, in hindsight, makes the memory grow even more precious for me. I think it's fair to say that my dad was largely responsible for my choice of career. Well, to be more accurate, if my mother had trusted my father more, I might never have become a musician. See, there was always a lot of cat-and-mouse maneuvering going on between my mom and dad, due in no small part, I'm sure, to my old man's restless nature. He was the guy with one foot always out the door. So on any given night, he would be on his way out to one of his favorite saloons, places that generally had one of his favorite piano players on hand, and the invitation always there for him to come and sing. It all seemed innocent enough. Still, with a certain percentage of the usual patronage being my dad's many female admirers, my mother, Mary Jane, clever woman that she was, would suggest that since he hadn't seen me all day while at work, he should let me tag along. In truth, I was the designated spoiler. Having me in tow would, at least in theory, limit the amount of trouble he might otherwise get into. And of course, since I was all of 5 or 6, he'd have to get me back home at a decent hour. So like clockwork, we'd bounce back into the house most nights no later than midnight, 1 in the morning at the very latest. In spite of his occasional lapse of parental judgment regarding my curfew, my dad would always be a larger-than-life hero to me. I aspired to carry myself the way he did, seemingly so sure of himself, ever steady and confident. However, that was not me. I never spent a day feeling sure of myself in anything. And furthermore, I was convinced I was the only one who felt that way. My father had enlisted in the Marines during World War II, and by the time he was 19, he was off in the Pacific Theater fighting in the hellish campaign that included Iwo Jima, Tarawa, and Peleliu. And while he chose mostly never to talk about the war, it was clear the experience had left its mark. His constant anxiety, before the phrase post-traumatic stress became popular, manifested itself most notably in his insatiable need to keep moving. Post-war hell for my father was being stuck within the confines of 4 walls. Forward momentum in some form or another seemed to relieve his stress. He and his brothers grew up on the streets.